Okay, I'd like to call the December 8th meeting of the Finance Committee to order. And I will do the roll call. Alder Galvin.
Here.
Alder Johnson.
Here.
Alder Corpus Dax.
Here.
And Alder Dorf is here. So we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Galvin. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from November 17th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alder Corpus Dax, second by Alder Johnson. Discussion. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Item number 1. Under regular business, for consideration with possible action to approve the Axon Officer Safety Plan 7+ 5-year agreement to not exceed $2,707,837 contingent upon Law Department review and approval. Who would like to talk?
Okay, in your packet, you had quite a bit of information. There was a little bit of a summary on the report page. Then there was a summary of costs, and then there was a very detailed what made up all the costs in your packet. We have the vendor on the line, we have the chief, we have the captain on the line. I guess I would send it back to you and ask you what questions you have.
And so this was what we had the report on at council last week. Correct. So we that was 30 minutes. I don't have any questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Yes, Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask a couple of questions specifically about the proposal, and then maybe a couple that are maybe a little broader. So the first thing is on the page, the Packers discount.
What page are you on? Do you know?
It is page 1 of the proposal.
Okay.
It says Axon Packers Partnership Discount. Can somebody please explain to me what that is? And should we open the floor? I mean, are these questions that perhaps, the vendor would be best positioned to answer? Director?
Yeah, I can answer that if that's okay.
We'd have to open the floor.
I'll do a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Okay, motion to open the floor. Second discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The floor is open. Okay, Ms. Donahue?
Yep. So we did establish a bit of a partnership with the Packers where we were providing some discounted pricing. So we have already applied that discount to this particular contract. So that's all that means is that we've established a partnership with them, and so that they're able to help more departments. We're able to give them a little bit better pricing, which in turn to you.
Okay, so when I'm looking at the vacant line, this is Packers contribution. Are they making a bigger contribution other than just we're going to negotiate in good faith on behalf of multiple organizations?
Yeah. So Ben, do you want to comment on that? You or Kevin or Diana?
Sure, I can step in, and then certainly Ben can talk to it. At this point, it hasn't been disclosed the amount, so we're not able to bring that to you. We talked about trying to go in a closed session, but we really didn't have the right reasons to go into closed session. And then really, we can refer to Attorney Bunkert if we want to explain why we didn't go into. I have closed session language on here. And then Ben, if you want to talk to about the full rollout by the Packers.
Lieutenant Allen, are you going to talk?
No,
Or, sorry, Captain Allen, Captain, right?
That's all right. I didn't know if Joanne wanted to talk about the closed session language or.
Oh.
Well, I tell you, basically, it sounds to me like we don't have an answer to that question right now, right? Is that accurate?
Essentially, what we've been working on them with is to cover a portion of the body camera itself. So outside of the body camera, the taser that's going to come out of the city, along with these squad cameras. So their big interest and their big push on the social justice front is that effort with the body cameras. So that's where their interests lie. We've talked about doing the possibility of various different ways of their funds assisting with this, from this going to the first full year of the contract, to portions of the first and second year, and then the city would be responsible for second, third, fourth, and fifth year, or a combination of that.
Not been decided, that's still being negotiated or discussed?
So their plan is at City Council, they'll have their full funding package out and ready to go to us, and ready to go to the city. There's some dynamics there that they're working through to address. And they're being, from the beginning of this project, they said they were going to fund a big portion of this, not just for us, but for Brown County and Ashwaubenon as well. So as we work through this, every one of them is going to be very different based on product that they choose, the number of units that each need. Obviously, Ashwaubenon is very small compared to what our needs are. Brown County is probably very similar, but they're in a different boat with the equipment that they need as far as tasers and squad cams and those things go. So they're looking at really what can they do to minimize the cost upfront for us, that we're able to purchase this for, this 5-year really long-term agreement.
Okay, so when I'm looking at, and perhaps you know the answer to this, Captain, perhaps not, but when in the agreement it's laid out as kind of like a 5-year plan of what the payments would look like, it's anticipated then that the Packers contribution would be heavily weighted towards that first year within that 5-year payment plan?
Yes, sir. That's the plan. And again, we talked about maybe that 1 year, that first year they would take on a large portion of that, and then or putting their portion into the first and second year.
Okay, but we won't have that answer until the city council meeting next week?
Correct. And I know that Diana has worked numbers upside down and backwards to try to make this work, so she may have a better answer on some of the particular finance numbers.
That at least is helpful. I just was looking for an update, kind of where we were at in that conversation. So thank you. The next question I had is on page 18. And Kels, might be a question for you, but maybe city staff, I'm not sure. It talks about the need to pay for additional equipment. So equipment that is not covered by Axon, but equipment that the city would need to provide. And I believe, and I'm scrolling here, I believe that was related to like servers, monitors, that type of thing.
Yeah, and actually this is probably better suited. I think I saw Jason on here because Jason has, well, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm pretty sure he's reviewed our statement of work here inside and out. And that's where you're looking at, correct, is page 18 of the actual quote, where it has a statement of work and Wi-Fi offload considerations.
Yep, that's exactly it. And what I'm trying to determine here is, in addition to the quote that's being provided by Axon, how much additional expense is the city going to need to incur to fulfill, this thing holistically?
Right. So the quote that we provided is going to provide all necessary components. Now, I want to turn that over to Jason, just because from a technological standpoint, from the IT standpoint, he's probably best suited to speak about that. And we've had a significant amount of conversations around that as well. Jason, you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jason Bam, the IT specialist here at Green Bay Police Department. What we have in place really, as we're going through and revamping our Wi-Fi infrastructure throughout the city, that's really where the majority of this is going to focus on. This is all part of a overall sweeping transformation of our Wi-Fi. It's not really any additional cost that hasn't already been incurred by this Wi-Fi project.
Okay, so any IT equipment required by the city is already accounted for in our annual budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Answer that I was looking for. in terms of, once the warranty expires, because I believe a lot of these components were 1 year, I think some might have been a little different. But once that warranty expires, perhaps Kelsey, you might be able to expound upon this a little bit. Like in other that use your product or service, how frequently do you expect in terms of maintenance costs every year?
So that's a great question. I'm going to start off first and foremost by saying that nothing that anybody can make on this planet is cop proof. And I am pretty sure Chief has figured that out. And so is everybody else in the PD. If there's a way to break something, a cop's going to do it. That said, though, this is a comprehensive program. So the reason that we included that quote summary document that really breaks things down and gets pretty granular into what's included is that everything's covered under extended warranties. If there's a repair or a replacement that's needed, it's covered under this program through the full 5 years. Upgrade the body cameras every 2.5 years. So you're actually getting 3 sets of body cameras throughout that 5-year contract, because you're going to get them in the first day of the contract. You're going to get them again at month 30 and then at month 60. And when I say upgrades, I truly mean that. If we've come out with the Axon Body 4 at that point, that's replaced the Body 3, that's what you'll be receiving. Same goes for the docking stations that they utilize to offload the data. And then also for the in-car system, we upgrade that at the end of 5 years because there is a useful life for those components as well. So the idea being this being a full comprehensive maintenance program as well, so that they're not coming back to you every so often and saying, look, I had a bunch of equipment break. Now I need, $20,000 more to go ahead and replace it or repair it.
So this is really more of like an equipment lease program as opposed to purchasing?
It is not a lease. No, terms have already been reviewed, and actually we sent back our final copy today that was accepted, I believe. So you do own the equipment from day one. The beauty of us serving law enforcement is that we allow flexible payments. So that gives you the opportunity to pay that over time, even though you own the equipment from day one.
Okay, so just part of the agreement, you kind of rotate the equipment to keep it.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the cameras have lithium ion batteries inside of them. So I would consider it like, think about your cell phone, right? So a lot of the reason that people get new cell phones, other than they're the new shiny toy, is that the battery starts to die on them, right? So you're having to charge them more often. They're dying a lot quicker. Same goes for body cameras typically, because they have those lithium ion batteries. It degrades over time. We try to get ahead of that by replacing it for you automatically every 2.5 years. But again, something happens to that, Captain Allen can call me up or call up your dedicated customer success manager that you're going to have and say, hey, this camera went down. They'll have spares on site to replace those with that are free and included with the program. And then we'll send them new cameras to replace whatever they've sent back to us.
Okay, thank you for that. So those are some of the more general questions I had, but I mean, maybe more difficult question, Director Ellenbecker, how are we paying for this?
At this point, it would have to be long-term borrowing. It would have to be put in our CIP. At this point, it has not been added to the CIP after tonight's meeting and council meeting. If they are approved, it would be put in our long-term borrowing. There would be some expectations that there would be costs in their year 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Okay, so would you pull on that bond? I mean, is that what you're proposing, is that we pull on that bond every year? Because you wouldn't want to pull more on the bond than what's necessary. So that would be part of the annual bonding process, that you would pull whatever amounts necessary for that year's agreement value?
Yes, correct. Because the agreement, once we have it all locked in place, we'll know exactly how much we owe on an annual basis.
And is that the long-term plan? And the reason I ask the question is because clearly this is demonstrating that it's an annual expenditure that's necessary to maintain the program. So it would seem odd to me that we would automatically put ourselves, we're going to indebt ourselves, for 1 year needs.
We certainly, obviously, every year we should try to put it in our operating budget, but really the fallback is going to be if we can't get in our operating budget, it would have to be borrowed for.
Okay, and then the last question that I have, did we do an RFP on this? I know it was touched on a little bit, at the council meeting, but I'd like to just talk about that a little bit.
I'm going to let Kelvin speak to that item.
No, there was not an RFP done. There were initial discussions about doing that, and we started working through that process. But Axon is on the Sourcewell contract, which is a group consortium. It's nationwide. It's something that they did an RFP. Sourcewell did with multiple reviewers. I did review all the documents, all the contracts, the RFP that they put out. Everything does line up to our policies, meets our policies. So they did the competitive process for us. We are just piggybacking off of their contract.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that we're following city policies. And certainly correct me if I'm wrong on this, Kelvin, but it was my understanding that an RFP was required for any. Is there sort of an escape clause, if you will, that allows us to go about your approach that you mentioned?
What is required by our procedures is some sort of competitive process. So the Sourcewell group did the competitive process for us, and now we are tagging on to their competitive process. Just like we recently did the financial services RFP, the Village of Ashwaubenon piggybacked off of our RFP to get the same results and go with the vendor that we chose. So this is no different. This is a very standard practice throughout the industry, and we are following all of our policies and procedures.
And Alder Johnson, if I could jump in for a second, we did 5 years ago, we did a comprehensive review of the different body camera systems that were available out there, and Axon rose to the top. Again, when we started exploring this year, we went ahead and looked at all the top vendors that were out here, and Ben Allen can talk to that in great specificity if you'd like. But we didn't just pick Axon because they were the biggest and best known. We really took a long look at other agencies, what they were using, what other systems were available out there, and the cost benefits of each of those systems. So this wasn't just hey, let's go with Axon because they're the biggest name out there and I happen to have experience with them. It's because they rose to the top and are searched through all the other vendors that are out there.
Okay, thank you for that, Chief. And I want to be clear, I'm not, picking on this particular item. I feel like I've been very consistent with other committees as well, asking questions when we don't get a sufficient number of bids. And so I'm just kind of following that practice. Okay, that's all I have for questions right now.
Thank you, Alder. Are there any other? Yes, Alder Galvin.
Chair, and thank you, Alder Johnson, for those questions. I guess I'm going to piggyback on some of those. As I was reading through the documentation, it looks like the overall cost is roughly $2.7 million over 5 years. Is that correct? And yes. Axon is saying that because of the package we're getting and because of the packers' input, we're saving just under $1 million.
Yeah, so if we were to do these items a la carte rather than bundling them the way that we have here, where that they're receiving, so from the automated redaction tools, from the replay coaching tools, what we call Axon Performance, which is going to help with policy adherence, all of these additional pieces of software added separately actually equal a higher dollar amount, which is what that discount reflects. If we actually take it all and put it all together in one single bundle rather than piecing it all together, that's where you see a lot of that savings. Additionally, we did provide trade-in credit for the current tasers that they have. And then we also have the Packers discount, like we said in there, for the partnership that we have with them.
Okay. It just seems kind of odd going into an agreement, yet we don't know what the other party's going to put forth into there. I mean, it's like, like I'm going to go buy a car with my parents and I don't know how much they're going to give in. So, how's that deal kind of working? I mean, it seems kind of weird that we don't have firm numbers yet because those decisions should be made at the committee level. And it's almost like we're going to have to wait till we get to council. And I mean, if that's how it ends up working, that's how it works out. But it should be, in my opinion, vetted out more at the committee level, and despite whatever decision is made, it can again be vetted at council. Warranty. As I'm looking at this, And it says 190 units. I guess that's based on basically 190. 90 officers will have body cameras, tasers. So each officer is going to be issued a taser.
150
150.
for the tasers. Yeah. So there's more that are going to carry the body cameras than have the tasers, because you're going to include like command staff and those that don't necessarily carry tasers on a day-to-day with body cameras.
Unless they have a difficult staff meeting or something. Okay. So we're going to have every detective, every sworn person carrying a badge is going to have a camera issued. Is that correct? Okay. And then obviously this is for Ben and the chief and Kevin. I'm going to cover who's wearing those cameras. I mean, I can't see paying for a camera if it's going to sit in an investigator's drawer for 9 months, and then he goes out on an investigation and jumps a patrolman's call, and then something serious, and he doesn't have a camera on or didn't know how to operate it or something like that. Policy and procedures going to be updated to cover the use of these cameras?
Yeah, 100%. So the idea with investigators having them is they'll use those for their recordings of their interviews. They'll use them, out on the street when they're doing an interview in one of their detective vehicles. But they'll also use them in the interview rooms. That way we have that one system, that one storage system, that one place where all those things go. So that's the idea behind that. We also know that our detectives work a lot of overtime special event type things. So we want to make sure that we have the resource there for them, particularly for the Packer games, for the big events, the bell and runs, those things. When we get back to a normal time when we can have those things, we have that resource available to them.
Okay. When they leave the station to go to lunch, are they going to be wearing that camera?
As far as detectives go?
Yes.
I haven't really thought about that part of it. We certainly could.
Well, I guess, Gordon Graham, evitable, it's preventable. Okay. Right. And I live by those words. And I could name off 10 incidents where detectives left the station thinking it was just going to go to the gas station or something. They end up in a shooting or a fight or something like that. So I'm just wondering, and the same thing goes for command staff. I mean, I can name some incidents where I'm out on the road and something went on and they weren't equipped to be able to go and help or deal with it. So I'm just wondering if we're going to be buying these cameras. I think our policies should be reworked to cover that. They're held just as accountable as every patrolman that's out on the street, and that they have those cameras on them and that they're working. I'm sure there's going to be situations where you don't want them on. I understand that, but I just want to make sure as we're moving forward with this that the department's prepared, because there are a lot of people out there that have lost some trust within departments throughout the United States. We've seen it, and we have to deal with it. And I think the thing is we have to earn that trust back in a lot of regards. And I think we have to have those policies and procedures in place to be able to show people that, yeah, we're standing on our 2 feet, and we're going to show them that we're going to do everything possible to make sure everyone can see that we're transparent in every action that we take. So I appreciate that. 5 years of borrowing. Director Ellenbecker, my complaint on police officers borrowing for squad cars that only last 4 or 5 years and other equipment. And this equipment is going to last a maximum of 5 years with some updating by Axion. But is that, I know we need to get these. I understand that. I mean, this is a need that probably should have been taken care of years ago. And we all know the financial straits the city's in. But is this the smartest thing going forward for us?
If it's something that it is something that we want, the only thing I can tell you, the only thing currently we have in our budget is around $21,000 annually for our tasers. So we wouldn't be potentially the way we structure the payments, we wouldn't be required to make a payment in the year 2021. That would give us time to ramp up and start putting money aside in the budget year over year. Either maybe there's a year or two maybe where you borrow for a portion of it, and then by the 5th year you are putting it in your operating budget. But at this point, I don't have a set a dollar set aside for this project. So it's either we find a way to get it into our operating budget, or we'll have to be borrowed if we want this equipment.
Okay.
And that's kind of on us to decide to do that as council the next time the budget comes around.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right.
And then one suggestion I would make that the department did do when we initially were trying to find the monies to buy our initial taser was we went to City Hall and the I can't remember exactly what loss prevention thing to take a look at the amount of officers injured, amount of suspects that were injured while making arrests, and look at the costs from lawsuits and time off and that, and see if there was a cost analysis that we could say, you know something, this is worth getting these because we prevented officers being off duty because of injuries. We prevented claims being made against the city because of injuries, things like that. And I guess I would encourage the city to look at doing that as we move forward here. Thank you. That's all I have for now.
Burnett.
Thank you, Chairperson Dorff. Good questions from Alder Galvin and Johnson. For a little more specific answer though, Diana, so we're going to be bonding money for the next 5 years for the cameras. How long would the bond issue? 15 years, 10, 15 years, 20?
Really any bond or note could be taken out for any period of time. We've taken it out notes as low as 1 year, and we've taken notes out for 10 years, and the bonds can go up for 20 years. When we worked with bond counsel, you prefer not to borrow something longer than the. We also look at the average of everything that you're borrowing, and in some cases they're saying, well, you would pay off the items that had the shortest lifespan. But again, that is something that would be at the time of borrowing, we can decide how long we would want to borrow and try to pay for this, especially if we are looking to get it in your operating budget. That would be certainly something that we can try to keep it on the short end, and then knowing that again in a few years that we are now 100% on operating and no longer paying off a previous year's borrowing.
So the bond issue would be in January, or typically, I know the mayor was attempting to have everything lined up with the budget year. Are we still looking at perhaps April or May, like we had been in previous years?
Well, the reason why we wanted to try to line it up with our budget is so that if there are some dollars in your budget, that you could take things off of your capital improvement plan, put in your budget, and then not have to, since we were not able to have any room or capacity to put any items. We put a few small items in it, but because we didn't have room in in our budget, this did now move into our 2021 borrowing. We would never borrow it at the budget time. We would certainly move it into the next year. And so we are still looking at springtime to borrow for anything that we want to borrow in 2021. Again, this would not be something that if we continue to move forward with the financing structure that we have, we wouldn't have to borrow for it in 2021. It would really be at spring, probably of 2022.
So the Green Bay Packers are going to be contributing something, and it's odd for me that this committee is, as Alder Galvin said, this is a very astute point. We're discussing something without knowing what they're going to offer. So it could be that they offer the full $778,000, or it could be that they're offering $100,000. What this committee decides, it's almost as if the city of Green Bay is tipping our hand with our approval. So if this committee goes forward and said, yep, we're okay with this, then the Packers know that. I mean, we should know the amount that the Packers are contributing before this discussion even happens. We are definitely putting the cart before the horse. And it just seems, the timing just seems very odd to me. And I'm not directing that at any specific person, just an analysis from my perspective.
So we don't. So I wonder if we should be doing this at council and not here. I mean, we can talk about it here, but can we do it as the committee of a committee of the whole item? Or can we just send on to council without a recommendation? We've done that before, because you're right, Alder Burnett and Johnson, know how much we're hoping and thinking that we're going to be supported, because the Packers have indicated they want to support us. And yet we do have to be responsible to our constituents, and we don't know what that number is, but we will know by the next meeting. So Director Ellenbecker, is there any concern with us just holding it till the...
I just asked a follow-up question to that, Alder Dorf.
Sure.
But is there a sense of urgency around this? Because my fear then is now we're asking the full city council to be taking on committee work.
I would like to chime in here, and I'm really going to look to either the captain or the chief. Part of the timing is, I guess I know those two have worked with has discussed and worked with the Packers about rolling this out as one big plan, as long as it's because they want to make sure that Ashwaubenon is on board to want to move forward with the cameras, and that Brown County wants to move forward with the cameras, and that Green Bay wants to move forward. So they're looking to see whether or not the municipalities are willing to move forward with this plan. And so Captain Chief Smith, do you have any more to add? I know you had worked and talked with some on the Packers side.
Speaking with the Packers, they are very anxious to move forward with us. I think speaking from the community, I think there's a very strong level of support for us moving forward with these cameras. In fact, people are asking why we didn't do this years ago, and there were a lot of reasons that I spoke about last time when I talked about the changes in the state legislature that happened this year that make it a lot more feasible for us to have cameras, the upgrades in the camera systems and the redaction software that's going to make it more affordable for us, and us wanting to move forward smartly. I think the DPR already has them. UWGB's already has them. Ashwaubenon is moving forward quickly. I talked to the sheriff last week. He's moving forward on some camera system. I don't think he knows exactly which type he's going with yet, but I think there's a sense of urgency from the Packers, certainly from the community. The officers are eager to jump on board and be a part of this because I think they see the benefit in protecting themselves from the false complaints that they see out there from time to time. So I think that's kind of where our urgency is.
And if I can jump in just for 1 second. So I speak with the Packers regularly, almost daily at this point. They're probably tired of me. And it's going to be offering you guys. I think what we're trying to just make sure that we're ironing out here is the logistics of it and how it comes to the city and goes to the PD and how those payments get made or payment gets made. The ideal here would be that you wouldn't have to spend any dollars here in the first year of the contract, aside from the $21,600 for the tasers that was already bid for. Now that's not what is committed quite yet. Like I said, we're finalizing all of that. And I believe they're going to be a part of the city council meeting next week to, finalize that and address it as far as our discussion went today. But that's really the ideal, and where we're striving to be is that you owe $0 this year, aside from the tasers you already had budgeted for.
Oh, Burnett?
Yeah, thank you. By the way, thank you for all those comments, everyone. And that's good to know, because it seems from what Ms. Donahue just said, the Packers will be willing to give a very sizable contribution, which may mean it's very easy to do in year one. I guess what my concern is year 2, 3, and 4, 5, which appears 307,000, 526, 547, 547, 547,000, which again is what it is, and we'll get to that point in future budget years and borrowing years. My question, though, is we, as City of Green Bay, are stewards of our taxpayer dollars, and what I'm hoping we do with an RFP that, in this case, wasn't necessarily publicly disclosed. Mr. Winters, our purchasing manager, would that scoring criteria, that analysis that you said had happened, would that be a public document that we could, one as a city council, look at, but release to the public so they know that we did our due diligence, that we're just not moving forward with a $2.7 million contract without the supporting documentation that this was bid out competitively?
Yes, all of that documentation is public, and I can certainly pull that documentation up and provide it if it was requested.
Prior to the city council meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Alder Burnett, actually on the report page, it's really the summary page for this item. There is, under reference number 2, there is a link to the RFP that we if that doesn't give you what you need, then please let us know. But that should be the link to the RFP that we are using and piggybacking
Not so much, and thank you for that, Director Ellenbecker, but not so much a link, but I'm going to actually print it and make it part of the attachment in our agenda when it goes to the council. So, and thank you for that. I did not click the link, but I appreciate that. The reason I'm really kind of driving home on this because just today, bear with me for a minute, the Press Times had published an article that in Ashwaubenon, their public safety manager indicated that there were like 5 different companies that they were looking for in regards to their body cameras. So I think that that's important to note. So I agree with the chief. I think we are all not all, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I'm at the point now where I think body cameras are critical to protect our officers and the public. And it's good to know. One final question regarding detectives. Chief, perhaps, or Commander Ward. Detective wears a camera and it's on and they're questioning someone on the street. Do you find that a person would be more willing to give information to help solve a crime if a camera is on? Like, is there concern from people when they talk to the police about a crime that had occurred to have a video recording of that crime or that conversation? Is that a concern?
Sir, I think that depends on the person. Some people are eager and anxious to get their voice heard and they don't care that there's a camera on. Other people won't. If we're talking about crime victims or we're talking about children or people doing with regards to sensitive crimes, then the expectation would be that the officer would turn the camera off. And so those are the policies that we're working out and looking at best practices across the country where it's going to work. But most people, their behavior changes somewhat when they know there's a camera on them. Some people are hesitant to speak out. Others are just as eager to talk whether it's on camera or not. Ben, you have an experience with that there? Maybe Kelsey that you want to share from other.
If I would say you're right on, it's going to really depend on the situation, on the person, on types of incidents, those types of things. There's very strong policy that crime victims are not recorded. That's our current policy for our interview room area. If we have a crime victim in, that interview is not recorded. That would be the same for certain areas, hospitals, sensitive crime investigations, those types of things. And those are thankfully laid out by the state as far as state requirements go. Our policy, we can design that and have worked through multiple different policies that have been sent to us from other agencies that have had long-term body camera programs. So we've been working pretty diligently on policy, but like Chief Smith talked in the last couple meetings that we've had about this, we have Lexipol, and that's really the gold standard for policy across the country. So we really lean on that quite a bit to help us design that.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. No other questions, Alder Dorf.
Okay, Alder Steuer.
Thank you, Chair Dorf. A lot of the were asked by the previous alders, and I appreciate all of that. I guess I was going to ask Captain Allen, but the surrounding areas are all Ashwaubenon. So have you talked to Ashwaubenon at all as far as the dynamics of something like this, as far as body cameras, whether you're in Ashwaubenon or Green Bay, especially the fact that everything is so closely tied together in that area?
Yeah, so they're actively searching for what body camera system they're going to go with. They have been in talks with Axon as well. One of the initial things we talked about with all agencies in Brown County was to kind of streamline that process a little bit and get it to where we have one consistent or a couple of consistent systems. And really that's to be able to get these videos, the recordings, interviews, all those things to the DA's office and to the end user, which is both the DA's office and then the general public that's going to be sitting on a jury, those types of things. So we really did talk about that quite a bit with our partnering agencies in the county about the system that we want to use.
Okay, that helps. Just one other thing, I agree with the fact that the amount, what is it, 7.2? Is that it? I'm sorry. What was the amount for these cameras again? 2.7?
2.7, yes.
For the whole package, right? And I know we talked about different strategies and whether it be a 1, 2, 3, 5-year bond, that type of thing, and how much per year. Remember that the last couple of years we were talking about a new safety building as well, and I think we got to really not forget about that as well. Things that are kind of reaching a certain point, and I just want people to be aware of that as well. That we got that coming down the pike as well. So it's a good discussion. I'm learning a lot. I think some great questions were asked, but we'll be definitely on top of this. Thank you.
And committee, another thing I just want to mention is that, we can vote on this. Nothing, until council votes on it, nothing is really settled. So whether we vote on it here, if we support the idea, we support this in theory, thinking we'll get a large amount, that will help us, we can support it here because it doesn't become real until council approves it anyway. And we will have more information then. So I'm open to also having a motion to support. I will call you Mr. Galvin, Alder Galvin, but Diana, please go first.
Nope, I just want to remind you to close the floor before you make your motion.
Oh, okay, and I wasn't going to make a motion, but okay. Does anyone still want to talk to Kelsey or anyone else that's on the floor? Do you think we should close the floor? Motion to close the floor by Alder Galvin. And Brian and Veronica are very silent. Alder Corpus Deck seconded that. Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, the floor is closed. Okay, so what would you like, Alder Galvin?
I'd like to make a motion to accept this proposal. I mean, the police department has done a very good job, a lot of due diligence in comparing the different products out there. And they've done a very good job of comparing not only just audio recording and video recording, but also because the cars, the tasers, the redacting, everything that's going to be involved in this. So this is like an octopus. And there's a lot of different things involved here to make this all come together in the package that we have. The tasers were out of date when I was on the department 6 years ago, and we're in poor shape. And I know that the squad car cameras were having a heck of a time even 6 years ago. So, I mean, these are all things that are on the verge or are past the verge of needing to be replaced. When Mr. Winters explained my concerns about the IRFP, I accept that this has been vetted properly. I think moving forward, it's not just a link, but have them in the package so that the citizens and rest of the members can see it. But I think we've done everything we need to do. The only thing we need to see is what is our final cost going to be and what are the packers going to give? But I'm going to make a motion that we accept this and approve it.
Is there a second?
Well, second, I think we had, I had a lot of the same concerns and questions that were asked with the other elders. I think we're going to have a lot of great conversation and additional questions once we hear more at the next council meeting. So I'll go ahead and second this.
Thank you, Alder Corpus Dex. Yes, Alder Johnson.
Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion. I'll tell you why. I think we ought to be advancing this without a recommendation, because we talked about it here that we are going to be asking City Council to do committee work next week. And so I don't feel confident putting a vote on something for which I'm missing critical information. And there's a couple of pieces to me that are very critical. One is, what is the Packers' contribution? I mean, we're making a very sizable commitment, a financial investment here and again, we're missing critical information. And I think that is really important for us to understand so that we actually know what we're voting on. I do agree with Chief. There's public sentiment out there for this. I do support making the investment in cameras, but I don't think that it's an excuse for us to rush something through when we're missing certain bits of information. And so I do think that we need to take our time and be patient and make sure all of our questions are answered. So that's one key piece that I'm struggling with right now, is not knowing what that piece that I'm struggling with is getting stronger clarification. whether it has to come from this body or staff, but how we are going to pay for this. So we are looking at a 7-year agreement that is being paid for over 5 years. So one could argue that you've got 2 years that, we're going to really be able to have without a payment. But otherwise, we're looking over the next 5 years here at making payments of, $400,000 to $500,000. And for us to bond that amount, and again, I recognize those 2 years we're not going to have a payment. So let's say then, for the sake of discussion, you average it out. We're adding approximately $400,000 a year in annual payments to our annual budget. And that's an indefinite expense, right? That's never going away. At the end of this 7-year agreement, we're going to have to sign a new one. And that's going to come with those same annual payments. I cannot support a bond on that. I mean, that's like the equivalent to saying we're going to bond for payroll. I mean, this is an annual expense that we are incurring every single year, and we need to find a way to pay for it. And if we can't pay for it, I mean, that's when you have to start having those discussions if this is the right time to make that investment. Personally, I think we need to find a way to pay for it. I do believe that. But I mean, we can't continue. I mean, if we continue to bond for this indefinitely, we're gonna get ourselves caught into a cycle where we're just growing debt on something that we can't ever retire if we can't ever find a way to incorporate this into our annual budget. So those are my 2 major comments that I wanted to offer up. I'm not going to support the motion only because I think those are critical pieces of information, and I would prefer that we refer this to council without a recommendation until that information is provided to us. In fact, could I ask legal for an opinion? Can I trump Alder Galvin's motion with a new motion to advance this with no recommendation? You're on mute.
Sorry. You can make a motion to amend the motion.
Okay, so I would offer up that motion then to amend the motion that we advance this without a recommendation.
Well, I'm going to speak too. I will not support that motion. I'll support Alder Galvin's original motion for a couple of reasons. First of all, we've known about this. We've asked about this like months ago when I said, well, isn't this in the budget? And the chief answered, Barb, that's coming along the line in the capital improvement plan. So, I mean, I've known for many months that it was coming up. I know we could not afford it the way our budget was this year. We are hoping that there will be other things that happen. For example, COVID will be gone. We'll be getting back some of the revenue that we didn't get. We'll hopefully get some revenue from other sourceable that I don't want to really talk about right now. But we need to have body cameras. The police need to have body cameras. The public demands body cameras. We are not serving our city well if we don't have these. So I also have a certain amount of trust in the Packers, knowing that they've been with us on this journey and they certainly understand what we're going through as a city. And so I have that what we hear at the next council meeting will be very good. And we will be very acceptable to us and will help us. And then, Alders, it's on us to figure out how are we going to add this to the yearly budget. And we will figure that out. We will have to, because it's something we should have had years ago. So anyway, you have an amendment out there now. And is there a second to the amended motion?
And I second it. I mean, I seconded Alder Galvin's. I don't know if I can second Alder Johnson. I mean, he has very valid points.
You certainly can. You can second that if you want to.
All right.
The amended motion. Yes. Yes, Alder Burnett.
I'm not on the committee, so it's a committee decision. But I just want to say that, hopefully, Attorney Baumgart, you can put on the agenda a closed session. I don't know why that wasn't allowed here. Director Ellenbecker hinted at it, but I think that's a, go ahead.
I'm in with an explanation as to why there wasn't a basis for it in law. Essentially what was sought to be discussed is privacy considerations of a private party, and the Attorney General has under the basis for negotiation of public funds. That the closed session language is specifically just discussing our contribution and our investment of public funds that would qualify, but really the basis would have been to afford privacy to a third party, and that doesn't for the closed session language to apply.
If the Packer organization between now and the council meeting come forward with what they're willing to towards year one and any future years, could we then have a closed session discussion at the city council?
At that point, closed session wouldn't be necessary because the information will be public.
I'm not understanding. Are you saying that when this goes to the city council, it will not be discussed in closed session?
It doesn't. It wouldn't need to be discussed in closed session with respect to the Packers' contribution, because at that point, my understanding, the Packers' contribution would be announced.
Okay. Thank you. I just had the reason thread. I like the no recommendation. I don't think it's appropriate for the committee to recommend something with the open-ended part of the equation. The open-ended part is what exactly will the Packers be contributing and what exactly the taxpayers of the city will be on the hook for. That's not saying that I don't agree with the body cameras. I think, speaking for the rest of the council, it seems like there's a pretty big consensus on the council that that's probably the right way to go. And it's certainly being heard by certain people and, groups and constituents within my district. So those are two separate things, the argument for body cameras, but the process in which this is being played out. I do think that I would have it seems like committee work. To me, I'll just end by saying it does seem like the cart is before the horse. Seems like we're kind of, I don't know if we're trying to coordinate with other municipalities or, coordinating around the Packers announcing this publicly, and we're trying to line up with other municipalities. I don't know what the reasoning is, but to me, it doesn't seem like a extraordinary, thing that we could not solve by a special meeting of the city council if that's what's needed. So we could probably still, vote on this by the end of the year. And as city council president, I certainly would allow and approve a special meeting of the city council as long as we do this the right way. I do like that. I don't think you should make a recommendation, but again, your committee, you can make your own votes, obviously. Thank you.
Yes, Director Ellenbecker.
I just want to bring it to your attention. Yes, we did ask for closed session language, and then again, we didn't have a strong enough case to put it on there. So that was the expectation, that we could talk through maybe some potential numbers in closed session. And then the other point that Alder Burnett said is, again, it's really trying to coordinating with the Packers timeline and the municipality's timeline. And so we aren't able to, share that information until we get that finalized from them. So those are the reasons why we're not being transparent. It's just that we have some things that are limiting it to us at this point. So we weren't able to bring it to you at this point.
To me, it seems like council is the fail-safe. If we think that we need body cameras, and we know we have to spend a certain amount of money on body cameras, and we have a good proposal in front of us, if we recommend it based on those items, we don't need to know everything about every bit of financing right now, because it can't go forward unless city council approves it. And when it comes to city council, we will know. We will have those answers. So other than that, is there anything that's objectionable in this proposal? Because we know it can't move forward without city council's approval. That's where I'm coming from. That's why I would like to at least support the concept of getting body cameras, to show that I believe that they're very necessary right now in this certain political climate that we're in. Alder Galvin.
To tag along with that, we all agree we need body cameras. Body cameras were needed a long time ago, and not just because of the current political climate that we're in, but we should have had them a long time ago. And it would have saved us a lot of grief over the years, and a lot of trouble, a lot of litigation, a lot of costs. At the same time, we're approving this to move forward. We haven't discussed how to finance it. I think that's set for another meeting. And so all we're approving is to move this forward as is. I mean, if the Packers didn't give any money to us at all, we know that we would still be shelling out $2.7 million. And so the only question then would be, do we think it's worth it, right? worth it at 2.7. Then yeah, we have to go on board, but then we have to go back to Axion and start saying, what do we cut out of it? It's like being at the checkout line in the groceries. You know, do you approve of everything in the cart? Then let's get up to the cash register and get it going. If you don't approve of everything in the cart, then get rid of it before you get up to the register, because we've seen those people that got to start taking things out because they don't have enough money. So are we approving that 2.7 million is worth it for this program? If so, I think we should vote on it today. How to pay for it is something else I think that is going to be reserved for another meeting down the road. Thank you.
Alder Johnson.
I just want to make the point. I appreciate where you guys are coming from, you know, but I'm going to maybe spin this around. I mean, we all recognize that we need more police officers, right? We've talked about that. We're fully staffed at what, 192, but then we have to stop and ask ourselves, why haven't we done that yet? Because we have to have the financial discussion. I mean, the finances don't appear out of thin air. And so I'm going to stand behind the no recommendation, because I think there are a lot of things that we want. There are a lot of things that we have to have. But when you don't have all of the information, I have never seen a committee, and I could be mistaken, I mean, that votes to support something without knowing what they're spending. And so I'm going to stand behind the no recommendation. Again, I do support the cameras, but I also support having all of the information that's necessary to make a big picture decision here. I agree with, you know, it just seems like some of these things might be held up because we're trying to make a PR announcement, and I can appreciate that. But we've routinely talked about how committees should be doing committee work and council should be, you know, that oversight body. And we're very intentionally saying we're going to wait for the full city council to do the committee work and make this decision. And so let's just give it to them and let them do that. And I just don't think that's an appropriate process. I'll make a no recommendation. I'll support a no recommendation. So that way we can kind of agree to let council do that. And if they want to kick it back to committee, they can do that. If they want to make the decision, they can do that. But I mean, for me to sit here and say I'm going to vote yes on this says that I accept the terms as they're laid out right now. And without having those missing bits of information, I just can't do that.
A clarification, Alder Johnson. How is sending it to council without a recommendation any different? Aren't we still making the committee work?
Well, because sending it with a recommendation, right? If I say yes to sending this to council, I'm approving this. I'm saying that this is the proposal. But so that means if the Packers come back and say, well, you know what, we're not going to give you anything. I mean, my yes vote would still have to apply, right?
No, of course not, because we're voting on it again at council. This is committee. Only council can make that final decision.
I understand from a procedural perspective, I can change my mind. But principally, if you support it here, why would you not support it at full council?
If the Packers came back with no money, I wouldn't support it at full council. I mean, I am trusting to a certain extent that they will do what they say that they are going to do.
And if they step up and offer that, then I personally, I just don't understand why this is such a debate. What's the difference if we send this with a yes, or if we send this with a no recommendation? I need more information.
I'll accept your yes, certainly.
I mean, and that's all I'm saying is, you know what, I still need more information. And if that information has been promised to us for the city council meeting, then I will hear it at that time, and I'll make a decision from there.
All right, we currently have a motion on the floor to send it to council without a recommendation. All those in favor of sending it to council? Oh wait, sorry, there's a Alder Weary at the bottom.
And Attorney Baumgartner.
Thank you, Chairperson. Sir, I was just listening intently to the good discussion that was going on, and a lot of good questions. I did have a question on the bid or no bid. I think it's what, 2.7 million is the price, right? And while we didn't go out for open bids, it sounds like there were some internal or another group who did some bids for us on that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so the bid was done by a group called Sourcewell. It's a national consortium that we're members of it for all nonprofit government organizations, those types of things. It's free for us to be members. They go out, they are doing this on a nationwide level. And so you obviously, when you have that big of a pool coming in, you're going to end up getting better pricing or better contracts negotiated rather than just us being a single organization negotiating with a company. So there was a competitive process done. When I reviewed, I can't remember the exact number. I believe there were almost a dozen responses to the RFP. So there certainly was a very vetted competitive process that was done.
Okay, and I appreciate that information. I guess I'm, as probably others are, I'm used to seeing the bids and knowing, all right, are we getting the most expensive but the best? Or, could we have paid $1 million less and gotten something workable? I just a little uneasy with, and not that I don't trust you, but that seems like a decision. I'd like to have that information. I mean, were the other bids considerably less, or were we talking $10,000, $250,000, $500,000?
Because this is done in a way that each organization could be trying to obtain a different amount of cameras. It wasn't done on a per camera base or anything. It was actually done on a discount percentage off of MSRP. So in our range here, I believe we are in the 150 to 200 range for cameras. We're looking at a 3% discount off of MSRP. That, whatever negotiations or agreements they've had with the Packers is beyond that, but off the Sourcewell contract, and Kelsey can, I'm sure, talk to that better, what kind of other discounts are included, but off the Sourcewell contract, we are receiving a 3% discount, which is in line with what was submitted in their RFP response.
Well, you gave me a lot of information, but I'm still not sure. Like the number two bidder, were they close, or was it not even close?
I would have to look up the final results. I don't have. I mean, I can go through and look at that right now.
That's something you can forward to council members.
Yep, I think Alder Burnett asked for us to include the documentation. So I certainly will pull all those documents and include those and get them so you guys can see them.
I appreciate it. And I'm sure, you made a good choice. It's just, we're going to get questions about, really, you guys didn't look at any other bids. And, there's just, I want to be able to speak intelligently through that and why we, chose this one. So, and I'm glad the Packers are going to help. They're always willing to step up. I wish they were ready today. I'm sure they know exactly how much they're giving. There's no reason they couldn't have had it for us today, but it is what it is. So thank you for letting me speak.
Okay, Attorney Bunger, did you have something or not?
Yes, procedurally, what is in front of you is a motion to amend, so that needs to be voted on, and then once that passes or fails, then you can. It would either to approve as amended, or then you proceed with Alder Galvin's original motion.
Thank you. All right. Mm-hmm. So we're going to vote on the amendment, which is to amend. The motion was amended to send to council without a recommendation. All those in favor of the amended motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Nay. I didn't get what you said. Alder Corpus Staff, did you say nay?
I said aye.
I didn't hear. Okay, so then that is a 2-2 vote, so that the amendment fails. So now we're back to the original motion, which is a recommendation to send it to approve. Recommendation to approve by Alder Galvin, which was seconded by Alder Corpus Dax.
Point of information.
Yes.
Just seeking clarity, if this vote were to fail in a 2-2, does it automatically get advanced as no record?
Yes, okay. It does, which we could have done right from the beginning. But yes, it does.
And I just wanted that clarity. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So ready to vote on the original motion. All those in favor say aye loudly. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Nay. And so this motion fails. Therefore, we're back to sending it to council without a recommendation. Right, Attorney Bungert? That's correct.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then, in essence, we'll be doing committee work at council.
Which we would have done anyway, and often do, in fact. But yes, we will be.
I'm dizzy. Okay, thank you.
Yay, let's move on. All right. Back here. Next item. All right. Number 2, request for approval to purchase a used tractor replacement from Service Motor Company for $41,750. Staff.
I am going to turn this over to, I'm not sure if it's going to be the director or if it's going to be over to the procurement manager. It looks like it's going to go to Director Grenier.
Yeah, I'll take this.
Okay.
Tractor 700 is one of our frontline large tractors. It's used on a daily basis. Summertime, it's used for large scale grass cutting, and in the winter, it's used for cul-de-sacs and dead-end street plowing. So it's a primary piece of equipment that we depend on. Mechanics have informed me that the rollover protection system, the ROPS, has fractured, and we cannot repair that. All of our tractors, the large ones, have an enclosed cab so that they can be used during the winter time, and the rollover protection system is inherent with that, having a cab on the tractor. So with the ROPS fractured, you could take the cab, cut the cab off of the tractor and use it as an open farm tractor. So the tractor still does have value to it, but not to us. It will not work for our intended applications. We do need to have that rollover protection system integral to the tractor. Again, because it's used daily and it's critical for snow operations, Nathan Wachtendonk, the fleet manager, any of you who've come to INS during acquisition or procurement of equipment or vehicles know Nathan's penchant for scouring the weeds, as it were, to find the best deals out there. So Nathan started calling around to a variety of his contacts in the industry and found a very gently used and in excellent shape case at Service Motor Company. By the time we get the trade value on Tractor 700, Nathan was able to get that price down net to the city at $41,750. I told Nathan I appreciated what he had done, but that's still $41,750. What he was able to demonstrate was earlier this year, we were able to acquire one of the 2 sanitation vehicles that we procured. We were able to save $5,000 on that one. And the second one, we were able to buy a truck that had been ordered by another municipality, but they were not able to take delivery of it. And we were able to realize a savings of $41,125 on that piece of equipment. So with the money we already had for 2020, we have approximately $46,000 to the good from Nathan's scrounging earlier in the year that could be applied to the purchase of this tractor to help us out with snow operations during the winter. So we did approach Calvin with all the legwork that Nathan did behind the scenes to get to this point, and requested to bring it forward as a sole source, because we're not actually going out on the open market to buy a used tractor. Number one, hard to spec that kind of a thing. Number 2, we need to get that piece of equipment in inventory as soon as possible. So we brought forward the sole source request to the purchasing department and have it before you now. So we're ready to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Grenier. The only question I did have was, how are we going to pay for it? And you already explained that. So anyone else have a question? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Move to approve by Alder Johnson. Second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. You got your tractor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 3, for consideration with possible action, the distribution of required communication from new auditing firm Baker Tilly US LLP. So this is distributing the information that we got in the packet. Does anyone have any questions on that?
Move to receive and place on file.
They are both of our partners. Carla is with us and Kim are with us. They would actually like to do a quick little introduction.
Oh, sure. Motion to open the floor.
Second.
Second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the floor is open.
Good evening. Thank you very much. I'm Carla Gogan, a partner with Baker Tilly, and I have Kim Schultz with me as well. We just want to take a few minutes of your time. As you're aware, you've hired or engaged Baker Tilly as your new audit firm. And so we just want to spend a few minutes giving you a brief introduction of ourselves, the firm, and then the overall audit process. I've been with Baker Tilly for 28 years. I'm a partner with the firm. I lead our state and local government audit practice. And Baker Tilly, we've been performing state and local government work for almost since its inception, and we've been around for 90 years. So we're very excited to have the opportunity to work with you. My primary responsibility on the engagement is just to ensure your overall satisfaction. Hopefully we meet or exceed your expectations, as well as a technical resource. So again, one of our goals is to ensure that your questions are getting answered throughout the year, and that our job is to issue the necessary reports and opinions, and we want to make sure that that's done timely and that there's proactive communication along the way. So with that, Kim, I'll turn it over to you to give just a few more comments regarding the process.
Okay, just to talk about the audit team, just real briefly. The team that we have selected to serve the city consists of professionals who work only in the state and local government space. So these are professionals who have dedicated their careers to serving local governments, are passionate about serving governments, and the whole team is excited about working with the city of Green Bay. We do have a number of subject matter experts assigned to the audit, and that is to make sure we're the best resource we can be for you, as well as to just bring the highest level of expertise that we can. We have experts both in the IT risk assessment. We have a separate partner identified to assist with that work. We have one of our firm leaders in single audits that will help with the federal and state single audit compliance. We also have a partner and manager. Jody Dobson is the partner that will, she specializes in enterprise funds. So she will be leading the effort on the transit program audit, and also on the water utility audit and the PSC report compliance. So Diana and her team have our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us if we can help with anything in the meantime. So looking at the audit process in general, we will be issuing our audit opinions. I will be the signer, as Carla mentioned, on the city's CAFR. Jody Dobson, the partner specializing in transits and water utilities, will be signing the opinions of those reports that we will then bring into the city. At the end of the audit, we will issue a reporting and insights letter, and that will cover all of our required communications. We'll also contain any recommendations we have as to city processes, internal controls, and any other informational points that we feel are important to bring to the committee's attention or the city council's attention. Looking at timing and overall audit process, we will be starting the planning that will go through January. We do have some dates in early January set to do preliminary field work to start our documentation and our testing. We will be doing the city's audit field work the last week in March, the first week in April, and then we'll be delivering draft reports the first week in June, and issuing final reports in accordance with the RFP by June 15th. And then once everything is issued, we'll be happy to come back to the committee and give a report of the entire process and deliver those results. Carla, do you have final comments?
Sure. So just to wrap things up, the document that you've placed on file, we refer to it as a two-way communication. So it is a required communication with the governing body, but our audit process, it's a risk-based approach. And so we want to be sure that the governing body has an understanding of the audit process, the requirements, and also to welcome your input. So we want to you. So if there are to you that we should bake into the audit process, again, we want to welcome your feedback into our audit planning that we do as a part of the financial audit. So with that, that wraps up our comments today. Again, thank you for the time. Thank you for the opportunity to present virtually, and hope we'll be able to see you in person in the not too distant future. But with that, if there are any questions or comments, we're happy to address those while we're here.
Yes, Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate you coming here, and I was quick to receive and place this in the file because I didn't realize you guys were here today. So thank you. And since you're here, I'm just going to ask you, when do you expect to start your work on the audit?
Sure. We received the signed contract today, so we're excited about that. We did, however, have a kickoff call with the city. We reviewed the city's comprehensive annual financial report, and so we've started our kickoff calls, which will conclude in December. And then in early January, we will start our preliminary audit field work. And then field work will take place in March and April.
Any other questions? No? All right. Let's close the floor. Motion to close the floor.
Motion.
Motion by Alder Johnson, second by Alder Galvin. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right. Is the receive and place and file the appropriate motion then? Okay. Yep. All right.
Motion to receive and place and file.
By Alder Johnson.
Second.
Second by Alder Corpus Dax. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And the motion carries. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming to join us virtually.
Thank you.
All right, number 4, the resolution for state trust fund loan for $340,000 financing reevaluation assessment service for the city's 2020-2022 approved at council meeting November 10th, 2020. So this is something we approved, and now we need to vote on a resolution.
Correct. That was the budget meeting, and so we're trying to decide which route we were going to go with the assessment. Okay. So I did make the assumption that we were going to move forward with it. So I really actually forgot to put the resolution in. So the resolution could have gone along with that packet back in November 10th, and it didn't. So this is really the follow-up to get the resolution approved.
Okay. So you need a motion to approve?
Yes.
Questions, Alders? No? Is there a motion? Motion to approve by Alder Corpus Dax.
Second.
Second by Alder Galvin. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, here we go. Number 5, to refer to staff, a request by Alder Weary to the Finance Committee, which states, due to ongoing reasons of inadequate staffing and prioritizing of tasks in our law department, I'm requesting we hire City Ethics, Inc. or a similar qualified party to draft revisions to the city's Code of Ethics and Code of Conduct as recommended in their 2018 findings paid for by the City of Green Bay, with requests that they return to the next Finance Committee meeting with an approximate window of how long it will take to complete the project internally, in addition to providing recommended action should we need to outsource the service. Okay, so is there a report, staff, or are we referring this to staff right now? What's happening?
It's referred to staff at the last meeting, so I think we're going to turn it over to Attorney Bungert to.
Okay. Attorney Bungert.
Yes. So Alders, we don't have a report. Essentially, I went back to staff and audited what outstanding projects we have. And reviewed what our current workload is and what we anticipate it to be over the next few months, particularly with the city attorney on leave until February. And we were able to commit to a timeline of completion for the ethics code end of April going into May, with the understanding that we are also going to be simultaneously working on revisions of the signs ordinance and the zoning ordinances, which are necessary in order for staff to be able to perform their duties. Because at this point, the signs ordinance is not functioning due to a precedent-setting Supreme Court opinion, and our zoning ordinances also need changes as they come up.
Okay. Any discussion? Alder Weary, but you're muted.
Thanks. I certainly don't want to be muted. Thanks, Attorney Bungert. So from what I'm hearing correctly, is this a commitment to having it done by April-ish?
It's our plan, essentially, and our hope. Obviously, as we always, as we always try and communicate and be forthcoming, we don't have a crystal ball, and we can't envision the future. But our plan and our timeline that we're presenting to the committee as far as what we are going to be working towards is end of April, beginning of May. And regardless, even not completed, we will at least at a minimum provide what is completed or give an update as we're moving along if we anticipate that we're not going to be able to meet that deadline.
How could you? What would it take? I think part of this was to, if you needed to outsource it, what would it take to get it done?
If that timeline is not acceptable to the committee or to council, then we would need direction for authority to hire outside counsel, and we would need funds specified as to a funding source.
Because that timeline at least is a timeline, but it's a very soft timeline, right? I mean, I've been, as you know, and we've all known, I've been asking on this for 2 years, and I'm always given a carrot just enough out of reach. And then you get there and something comes up and something comes up and something comes up. And this sounds the same thing, but, presented a little bit different. I'm wondering how we can avoid that, I think is what, I'm looking for. And I think the committee was looking for. It's really the same thing wrapped up in a different bow.
Right.
Because there's other things just as important.
I understand that concern. Unfortunately, with the workloads that we have and the staffing that we have, it's impossible to devote an entire attorney to just be working on this solely. It's just not a feasible function for our department. And so if the preference and the action of the committee is that you would like to have an attorney that's solely focused on just working on this, then that would require forming an outside counsel.
I'm certainly not an attorney, but something like this, I would think you could knock this out in a week or less. Honestly, 40 hours of work on something like this, it's probably partly done already.
Right. But again, an attorney doing nothing else but this. And unfortunately, that it's just not a reasonable or feasible thing for our department to be able to do. As lawsuits come up all the time, other issues come up all the time that require immediate action and require a shift in priorities. People go on vacation, people get sick, just like any functioning department. Our department
understandably so, and totally understand that.
We do our best to roll with the punches and try and prioritize what we can so that the city continues to function and that we are able to support our department so that they can do their jobs and operate and serve the citizens of Green Bay. And unfortunately, I can't provide, I can't dole out one specific attorney that would be working on this solely, particularly point 2 through February, with us being down to 3 attorneys and a city attorney being gone, and me taking on her responsibilities and also managing the department and handling my responsibilities as well. So
thank you, Attorney Bunger. You have explained. You have explained. You don't need to explain anymore.
you went on
the question. Okay. Any other questions?
Well, I would just comment, sometimes reasons turn into excuses and it just keeps on going. Okay. And somebody needs to put their foot down and say it needs to get done.
Right. And we're putting our foot down as much as we can within
I don't think so.
Humanly possible.
I don't think so. I'll listen to everybody else, but.
Right. I just don't feel like I want to badger the staff anymore. They've given an answer. They've given the best answer they can. That the staff has given their answer.
Need more. I work in the private sector and this would not fly.
Well,
the projects get done. Mm-hmm. Things are falling through the cracks. We're seeing all the times at the ethics committee, things that should have been addressed already that aren't. This has to get fixed, whatever it takes, because I guarantee you come April, this will not be done. I'll say it right here, right now, and I'll replay it in April. It won't be done.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other elders? Okay, so
appropriate, I guess, what would be the appropriate, motion here to table this until April, and then follow up at that point?
Right, to refer to staff to continue working on the revisions to the ordinance and to report back in the whatever the second meeting is in April or beginning of May.
Okay. Alder Galvin.
I'd like to make an amendment to that. I
didn't make a motion. I was just wondering.
I'm sorry.
Clarification what a motion would be.
I would make a motion that we review this in February. That's a midway point between now and the end of April, so that staff can let us know where they're at. And who knows, stuff comes up. At that time, I think we should then take a hard look at maybe hiring some outside counsel to get some of these things up to speed. I think we'd have a better idea in February. Our attorney, who's out right now on leave, will be coming back, I believe, around that time, somewhere in there. And then I think this would give staff a couple of months to see what they can accomplish. And if it looks like it's not working out, they're able to let us know, and we can look at some other options at that time.
Okay, Alder Johnson and then Alder Steuer.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion, but if maybe Alder Steuer could speak first.
All right.
Just in case it's something that would influence the motion.
All right.
I need a process. Do we have a motion on the floor right now?
No.
Then we kind of need a second to continue to discuss it.
Who made the motion?
Alder Galvin, I think, just made a motion that it come back
in motion to
bring it back in
February.
Right. Seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. Is that what? Did you second it? No.
I'll second that.
Okay. Seconded. Okay. Now we can have discussion. Okay. And you want Alder Steuer to go first,
Well,
or you?
I guess I didn't realize Alder Galvin had made the motion. That's why I was kind of waiting. But the point that I was going to make as well is that I actually wanted another thing included in the motion, which is that that this particular item be prioritized as the most important item with respect to non-essential requirements from the law department. And what I mean by that is I think the law department has taken up a number of things necessarily immediate needs, right? And this one just kept getting pushed to the bottom of the list, and other things. And so I would like this committee to actually direct that this one be put at the top of the list, because I do recognize that 2 years is a long time to wait for something, and it is something that needs to be done. This isn't a nice to have. This is something that, the outdated policy itself has actually created some problems for our ethics board. And so I would like to see that prioritized above other non-essential wants.
Could that be,
maybe as a comment on that?
Could that be put in as a friendly amendment to my motion?
Yeah, you can do that. If I could just chime in a little bit on that. I just want to clarify that as far as non-essential, it just leaves a little bit of ambiguity in the sense of the city attorney has to have the ability to determine in her professional and legal opinion as the attorney for the city as a whole, as a corporate body, as to what work needs to be done in the best interest of the city in what order. As an example, the work on our sign ordinance, when you're looking at it between the sign ordinance and the ethics ordinance, while the revisions to the ethics ordinance are important, the revisions to the sign ordinance prevent, with the way that our sign ordinance is currently, our inspectors cannot enforce our ordinance. Otherwise, it is exposing us to liability. So from a legal opinion and from a legal assessment, as far as our duty to protect the interests of the city, that would be considered essential. So the difficulty with that direction is that it creates a little bit of ambiguity, because what council may deem as essential may not necessarily be essential from a legal perspective and from a liability perspective from the city attorney on behalf of the city.
And I appreciate that, Attorney Bungert, and I'm not necessarily looking to micromanage or dictate to you how to make those decisions. I still think that you have that discretion. I'm trying to create more of a generalized statement that, you know, if a member of council submits a communication and says, hey, I'd really like to have this, that it doesn't get put above the needs of this, or you know, or if you're even internally that you're not given, you know, direction to prioritize something because somebody else wants it as opposed to something that the city authentically needs.
I think, Alder Johnson, we may just have to trust staff to do their job and to do it appropriately.
And that's what I'm doing, but I also think including that statement also just emphasizes the importance of the need to prioritize this item, because like I said, it has created some legal dilemmas for us as well. And I think that staff certainly has some discretion in terms of deciding, does this item create more legal dilemmas than this one? We're still giving them that discretion.
And so what if we just put in that this should be treated with high priority?
Yeah, that's fine with me. Yep.
You know, just something a little less specific.
Yep.
What was the original motion?
February.
The original motion in our mid-February meeting.
Oh, to get a report back on it. And in addition, this item should be treated with priority.
Right. And the furtherance of the motion was that if it looks like they're not going to get it done by April, beginning of May, then we look at other options, whatever they may be, to see what could be done to get this project done.
Okay. All right. I'll get you in a minute, Alder Sir, but do you still second that, Alder Corpus Dax, with the changes? Okay. Alder Stroyer.
Thank you, Chair. Alder Johnson did touch on some of those things that I wanted to ask, and I agree with Alder Weary in the sense that, you know, we have been waiting a long time for this. I guess one of the concerns I've had at council over the years, and Alder Galvin has, you know, fallen into this too at times, where you put in a request or a communication and it languishes for a while. And if we don't keep on top of it, it just kind of disappears. So we really need to have a stronger sense of these. You know, I know we had a database or something set up at one time. I don't know where that is at. As far as ethics goes, you know, we've had numerous cases heard where we've had much time was spent, a lot of money was spent. A lot of times we didn't get a good answer as far as a decision. So these are very important. So I understand the sign ordinance is important, and there's some other ordinances that we're going to be working on in the near future as well, which are very important. So we got to look at all of that. So I guess I'll accept the fact that, you know, we can look at this in February and see if this would be a viable time frame. But there's a lot to be spoken on this, and I rest my case right now. Thank you.
Right, committee, are we ready to take a vote? Right, any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. All right, motion carries. We'll revisit this in February. Okay.
Thanks, committee. Thanks, Jenny.
Number 6, possible action on the status of pending litigation in Harris versus Mavis et al. And
motion to go into closed session.
Okay, motion to go into closed session by Alder Johnson, second by Alder Galvin. Alder Johnson, you want to read the language?
Sure. The committee council may convene in closed session pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 1, subsection G, Wisconsin statutes, for the purpose of conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who has rendered oral or written advice concerning strategy be adopted by the body with respect to litigation which it is likely to become involved. The committee council may thereafter reconvene in open session pursuant to section 19.85, subsection 2, Wisconsin statutes, report any actions taken during a closed session and to consider all other matters on the agenda.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Okay. We're going into closed session, so
I will pause it, and then Diana, if you can move everybody into the waiting room, you will no longer be able to talk to me.
Say aye. Aye. Nay. Opposed? Nay. Motion carries. Okay, we're back in open session. Well, wait a second now.
Does that motion need to be made while we're recording?
Well, I thought it did, but at RDA this afternoon, I was told it did not. So, I'm confused on that because I thought it did need to be recorded.
I'll let the attorneys battle that one out.
Okay.
You are back in open session on my end.
Okay, we are now back in open session. Is there a motion?
Would move that staff proceed as directed in closed session.
Second.
Motion by Alder Galvin, second by Alder Corpus Dax. Any other further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Okay. Next item on the agenda. Report of the Claims Committee. Are there any questions?
I didn't have any.
I didn't.
None.
All right. Motion?
Motion to receive and place on file.
Okay. By Alder Corpus Dax.
Second.
Second by Alder Johnson. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And we are in informational. The contingency account is at 26,561.45 unless we've spent more money. Okay.
We have not approved any other expenses at this point. There still could be some continuing litigation for assessments that expenses that could still be coming against the 2020 contingency.
Okay. And there are going to be two finance meetings coming up. The first one is going to be on the capital improvement plan and borrowing, and that will be on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021 at 4:30. And then the next regular finance meeting for regular business will be, and also will include the capital improvement plan 2021 borrowing. Follow-up will be on Tuesday, January 12th at 4:30 p.m. Okay. Another whole committee to get through. So how about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Right. Let's take, it's 6:15. Let's come back at 6:20.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. 6:20. Thank you.